Wall Street Journal is reporting that Moscow and Tehran are moving forward with plans to build a new joint drone factory. Meanwhile, Iran's supreme leader is promising to pardon thousands of prisoners, including protesters. Simoen Foxman is tracking the stories from Doha. Simoen, what do we know so far about the Russia-Iran plan?
Well, this is coming from officials that are tied with a country aligned with the United States. So we should note that in considering this information. But according to this report, some 6,000 drones could be made in Russia if Iran and Russia move forward with this plan. There was a visit by Iranian officials to Russia, to specifically this site, some 600 miles east of Moscow, to kind of hammer out the details of how this production plan would work last month. We understand that the drones that would be manufactured there would have a longer range and move faster than the drones that Iran has already supplied to Russia, which have been used in Ukraine. And of course, the use of these drones in Ukraine is something that is of high concern to United States as well as its allies, as well as Ukraine, of course. You mentioned as well the news that the Supreme Leader would pardon thousands of prisoners, potentially including protesters. Human rights groups immediately coming out, though, and saying that this is a kind of sham, that the crackdown on the protests that we saw in the past couple of months is going to continue because a lot of the protesters that were arrested in this are on charges including destruction of public property and specifically an enemy of God. And those are charges where people would not be pardoned. So when you think of the international perspective, yes, you've got this maybe positive move slightly on the protesters, but you're comparing that to Iran-Russia cooperation and the like. I don't think this is a positive move in terms of Western views of Iran, certainly.
And then to the regional economy, we got a slew of new data about business conditions in the region, Egypt and Saudi Arabia. What stood out to you, Simone?
Really a divergence between some of the major economies in this region. UAE, which came out, the numbers came out last week, and Saudi Arabia really firmly in economic expansion territory. Saudi Arabia seeing the strongest business conditions in 2 years on the back of new orders and foreign investment. At the same time, though, you're looking at Egypt and Qatar, where the economy is shrinking, both in a bit idiosyncratic regions. Egypt, not so surprising. We've seen the devaluation of the pound. This is the 26th consecutive month of contraction. But, you know, some of the Qatar data was a little bit surprising to me. Really based on a FIFA World Cup hangover where businesses saw their confidence and their activity contracting substantially, yet at the same time their 12-month outlook is the highest it's been in 3 years, and that's also based on FIFA and the potential for new deals. Does this potential manifest in the next couple of months? I think that's going to be really important for the economic health here going forward.
And everybody wants a piece of the Aramco pie. So what's the CEO for Hong Kong pitching his wares for a dual listing in Hong Kong? What's he trying to tease the Saudis with?
Yeah, this isn't the first time we've seen Hong Kong pitch a potential listing of Aramco shares on its exchange. But John Lee, the CEO of Hong Kong, he is in the region. He's in Saudi Arabia and then going to the UAE this week. And he really talked about how the Saudi and UAE priorities are exactly in line with what the Hong Kong's advantages. Specifically, he was talking a little bit about the potential for greater business between Saudi Aramco's subsidiaries and Hong Kong. That was something that wasn't necessarily as present when these discussions were purportedly happening, or when this pitch was being made some 5 years ago. Of course, this is based on a report from the from the China South Morning Post. And it's not necessarily something that we will see confirmed as Lee goes and meets with these officials this week.